In today's video, we're going to be creating a CRUD API using the Mern stack. But before we get started with the showcase, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Okay, so now let's get started. We can add some data. Okay, we can say the undertaker, then add item, the Ms, add item, and then we can do CM Punk, and then we can add item, and then we can do Booker T, okay, and then we can do King Kong. Alright, so now as you can see we have the data. So now we've completed two requests so far. We did the get method, we're getting the data, and then we putting the data as well. Okay, so now we need to update the data. So when I click this edit pen, it's going to edit the data, and then I'm going to edit the text, and then I'll do King Kong, and then when I do add, it's going to update the name of the King Kong. Okay, and then now the text is there. So it goes for the same for every one of these. When I click this, when I click the Ms, and then this is the Ms, then when I add, it's going to update the Ms here. As you can see, I can also delete everything. Okay, now I've deleted everything. We can re-add stuff. This is John Cena. Okay, now we have John Cena. We can say the Shawn Michaels. Okay, and then I'm not sure if that's correct spelling, but okay. As you can see, we have the data. We can edit and remove this data. So this will be the functionality that we're going to be creating in this project. But we've already built the server in the last video. I'm going to put a link in the description so you can go watch that video to build the server. And then so this video is only utilizing that API we've built before. Okay, so I'll put that link in the description, so if you want to go through the process of building the server, you can watch that video. And then I'll see you in the video. Before we could start styling our front end, we need to do something in the back end first. Let's go to the app.js. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install another npm package. It's called cause npm install cause. So this is going to handle our cause instead of doing what we did last time, this one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to comment this one out because I don't want everyone to access this server. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out, and then I'm going to require the cause library. And it's called cause. And then below the app use express.json middleware, I'm going to put another middleware. So it's a cause function, and then it takes in an object, and then inside we have to pass the origin. So the origin is basically what URL that we want to access this server. So we can have multiple origins in here as an array, but for this one we're going to temporarily use localhost 3000. I believe it's localhost 3000. I'm going to copy and paste here, localhost 3000. So where's this localhost 3000 coming from? So this is going to be where we're going to run our app, our React app, localhost 3000. So if you're using a different port, you can do 3001. So for me, it's going to be 3000. That's why I'm putting 3000 here. Okay, so whatever you're using for the front end, put that URL in here. If we're deploying this on the live server, we can put the actual server name here. Okay, so I'm going to run this npm start so we can have access to this on the front end. Okay, so now everything is fine, no errors. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start doing the front end. I'm going to stop the video now. Alright, so now I'm inside React, inside the project. so there's nothing in here. It's just empty files. I've done the cleanup already, and there's like a few images that we're going to use as well. Okay, so we need to install start components. Just go install npm and then install styled components and Axios. So Axios, we're going to use Axios to do our request for the API. Okay, install this. I've already done that. I don't need to do it again. Okay, so after that, we're going to create a new folder in here. It's going to be called components. Oops. Source file, new folder, components. Okay, so inside the components, I'm going to create a new file. This one is going to be to-do form. Make sure it's form. Yep. Okay, so it's going to be a functional component. Okay, so what I'm going to do in the app.js, I'm going to render that to-do form. To-do. It's to-do. Okay. To-do form. Okay, make sure you import that from here. Import to-do form from. I don't know why it's not detecting the path. To form. Okay, I think I'm gonna rerun this because it's not detecting the path. Okay, so I'm gonna exit, don't save, and then I'm going to open this again. Okay, there it is. So now I'm going to try to import to do. Actually, now it's auto completing, so I'll just do this to do. No, it's not. Import to do form from style components and to do form. Okay, now it's auto completing. Now with the to do form, let's do an h1 here. To do form from, it's supposed to be form, not from. Okay, I'm going to minimize this. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh. Actually, I'm not running the project because I restarted, so go ahead and do npm start. Okay, while it's running. Okay, there it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a link variable, const link, and then I want to store our endpoint. This is the endpoint we did last time in the backend. Okay, so that's where I want to get the data from using this URL. Okay, so I'm going to create a state value, const to-dos, and then set to-dos. I want the to-dos that are coming from the server to be stored in the state to do. Okay, let's to-dos. Let's go to use state. Okay, so by default I want this to be an empty array. Okay, so down here I'm going to do a get request, so it's going to be a synchronous function, async. So what am I going to call this function? So it's getting, so it's get to-dos. We're going to get some data. Get to-dos. Oops, I think I should do function. I'm used to arrow functions. Okay, so in here we're going to await const await the data from axios.get. So we're going to use the get method, and then in here we're going to get the URL. We're going to get the data coming from the URL. It's supposed to be data, and then we do await axios.get. Okay. So in here, let's see if we're getting the data. Let's do a console log here. We can do that later actually. So when we call this function, so where do we want to get this data? Well, to be able to get this data, since it's coming from an API, we need to use a use effect hook, and then it takes in a callback function, and then inside the use effect, and then we're going to get the to-dos. Actually, we're not going to get, we're going to set the to-dos, set to-dos. So we're setting this to-dos to the get to-dos. Okay. Oops, not here. We're supposed to set it in here. Set to-dos, and then we want to set the to-dos to the data that is coming from the API. Okay, so whatever data that is coming from here, we're going to set it to the to-dos. So now we're going to have access to whatever data that is coming from the server, because we put it inside to-dos. So in here we're going to call the get to-dos function. Okay, get to-dos. Okay, so in here, since it's a use effect, we're going to put a dependency array. It's going to be empty because we want it to run once we run the project. Okay, so now let's save, and then we can actually COG this console log. Let's do it here. COG. We can actually do it here. COG, and then to-dos. Okay, because we've set the data in set to-dos already, so we have access to the data inside the to-dos now. Okay, now let's refresh, and then when I press F12, now there's something going on with the data. To-do form. Let me double check if my server is running. Okay. Oh yeah, it is. The server is running. Localhost link. Use effect. Get to-dos. Okay, we shouldn't have a problem now. Oh, it's an empty. It's still an empty array. In here, it's still an empty array. But we actually need to set this data. Let me show you what I mean. So if I go here, if I console log this data, right? If I console log this data, so this is the data. So we want to target data.data and then .crud. Okay, that's what we need to set. So we're getting the data correctly, but we need to target the CRUD. That's where the information is. So we got data.data.crud. Okay, so we got data.data and then .crud. Okay, so now data is not defined. So this one is to-dos. Okay, so now when I refresh this, it's still an empty array because the to-dos, we set it to an empty array initially. Okay, so but we are actually getting the to-dos that we want here. Okay, so now let's render these to-dos. So I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be to-do item.js. Okay, so now in here I'm going to save. So down here I'm going to create a new function, const. You can use an arrow function or you can use a normal function. Okay, so this one is going to be render to-dos. Okay, so in the render to-dos, I'm going to render whatever to dos that we have. So in here I'm going to run return. So what am I going to return? I'm going to return the to dos. Okay, so I'm going to map the to dos. So I'm going to say to dos map. So I'm going to return a to do and then the index of each to do. Okay, so in here I'm going to also return a component to do item, the one that we created. Okay, so I'm going to have a key since it's going to be a list. So key is going to I, the index, and then we're going to put prop, it's called to do, and then we're going to pass our to do in there because we want to have access to whatever we're getting from the API inside the to do item. Okay, so we're passing this to do in here. Okay, and then get, actually we don't have the get now. So yeah, that's it for now, and then close. Okay, so now we have access, we should have access to the to do in the to do item. And then here I'm going to destructure the props. So the first one's to do, that's what I want to access. And then in here I'm just going to maybe do an h1, and then I'm going to say to do dot name. Okay, so now let's save. But as you can see, we have no access to, we are not rendering the to do. Okay, so in here we're going to render the to dos. So here we say render to dos. Okay, so we're going to output the to dos here. Okay, seems like we have an issue, or maybe functions are not valid as a React child. This may happen if you return a component instead of from render. Rather than return this, let me double check what I did wrong. Oh, it's a function. I'm not calling this function. Okay, so now let's refresh. Okay, so now as you can see, we're getting the data from our database. I don't know what I did with these numbers here, but this is the data that we currently have in our database. Okay, that's the only data that we have. Actually, let's add some more data so for me to show you. I'm going to open up Postman, and then I'm going to add more data, and then to show you that it is the actual data that we're getting from Postman. Okay, so oops, yeah, this is the endpoint, and then I'm going to go body. Yeah, and then here I'm just going to say name whatever, go to the shops or something, I don't know. And then in here we're going to say dummy text, whatever, you can put whatever, and then I'm going to do a post request and then send. Okay, so when I refresh this, as you can see, we have another text. It says go to the shops. Okay, all right, so now in here in the to do item, I'm going to do another thing. So actually I want this to be an h2 or h3, and then in here we're going to have a paragraph. So this one is going to be to do dot comment. All right, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so we have the title, comment. Okay, so now it's time for the styling. So to style this, I'm going to be using Figma. I've done the design already. Okay, so I'm just going to put this on another screen so I can see it. I can see it as a reference. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a global in the source file. I'm going to create a global CSS file, new file, global style.js. We're going to use style components. We're going to import create global from style components. Okay, create global style, and then we're going to do const global style is equals to create global style. Okay, and and then in here we're going to do basic page resetting, margin 0, padding 0, box sizing 0, and then in the body we're going to do background color to this color here, the green color, and then I'm going to export default global style, and then I'm going to utilize the global style inside the index.js above the app.js above the app component. Okay, in here I'm going to do global style and then save. Don't forget to import it. Okay, so now when I refresh this, we should have a nice green background color. Okay, there it is. So in the app.js, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to have content container, and then the content container, that's when I want to render the app. Okay, because I'm going to style the content container, I'm going to give it a different background color. And then down here I'm going to do const app styled is equals to styled dot, it's a div. So if it's a div, I'm sorry about the background noise, guys. It's during the day, so there's always people doing noise outside. Okay, now I'm going to copy this app styled, and then I'm going to replace this div here. Replace it. You don't need the class names anymore, so I'll replace this with app styled. Okay, so now the content container I'm going to put in here, and then I'm going to change the background color of the content container, background color, to something like a dark color. Okay, so now we have a nice dark color. Hopefully it's reflecting. There it is. Okay, so what I want to do now is in the app in here, we're going to do display flex. Okay, so I want the content to be flex, and then align items to center. I want it to be centered, and justify content center as well. Okay, because I want it to be centered here on the screen. So what I'm going to do is give the height 100 VH. Okay, so there it is, 100 VH. And then this one, we're going to have a width of 80% and a mean height of 100. Actually, a mean height of 80% as well, 80%. And then this one is supposed to be a mean height, to be honest. So mean height, not 80% VH. Okay, so there it is. So I'm going to do border radius. This one is going to be 20 pixels. Okay, so there it is. So now we have our content. We're going to do a box shadow as well. Box shadow. So for the x-axis, I'm going to do 10 pixels, and then for the y, I'm going to do 12 pixels, and then the blur, I want it to be something like 20 pixels, and then it's going to be RGBA, and then I'm going to do black 0, 0, 0, and then 0.2 for the alpha. Okay, there is our nice shadow. Okay, I think I'm going to stop the video here until the noise stops, because someone is watching TV in another room, so there's so much noise. I'm going to stop the video now, and then I'm going to continue after the noise stops. Okay, so now let's add some inputs. Okay, I'm going to create another function down here, const insert to-dos. Okay, I'm going to do an arrow function. Okay, so in here I'm going to return div with a class of text editor, and then below that I'm going to also return a form. Okay, so now we have a form and a text editor. Okay, oops, don't use a return there. So we have a form and a text editor. So in the form I'm going to do another div. It's going to be input control. In the input control, we're going to have a label with a name for the form, and then name, and then the input of text, placeholder, enter name, and then the ID is going to be the same as the HTML4. So when we click on the label, it's going to activate the input. Okay, and then copy this, and then we're going to change from input to text area, text, text area, and then change the rows from 10 to 5. Okay, oops, actually this text editor is supposed to be inside the input control. Okay, it's supposed to be here. Oops, I didn't copy the text area. Text area 5, and then this one is going to be comment, and the ID comment as well. Okay, and then below we're going to do submit button. Submit btn, and then add item. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Now we just need to code the function in here. So it's going to be above the render, insert reduce. We call the function, and then there it is. Okay, so now let's do some styles, and then we're going to do const. Actually, let's do it in the app. Oh, I've done this before, so I'll do it again. And then in here I'm going to wrap this. Actually, I'll just do to do form, and then in the to do form I'm going to put this in a parent container, which is content container. Okay, I was recording this video and then I made a mistake. I had to redo this video again, so that's why you see styles here. Okay, so there it is, centered. What we basically did, we give the min height of 100 VH, display flex, align items of center, and width of 80% inside the content container, and a box shadow. Okay, these are the values. I was recording this video before, so that's why these styles are already there. Okay, content container is supposed to be content container. Okay, there it is. Okay, so for the content container, it's going to also have a display of flex, align items to center, so it's going to center this content here, and then justify content to center as well, so it's going to center like this. And then as for the input control in to do form, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to target the form. I can still do it here, form, and then the input inside the form, input, I want to have a width of 100%. So I want the width to be, and then the text area, same as the width. Text area, same as the width. Okay, there it is. Okay, so we're also going to do a padding. So padding is going to be 0.7 rem, top and bottom, and then left and right 1 rem. Okay, and then font size is going to be inherit, and then font family inherit as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oops, what's going on here with font family? I don't know why the this input is big like this. Oh, it's supposed to be 0.7 rem, not 7 rem, 0.7. Okay, like so. And then we're going to remove the outline to none, and then border to none, and then I'm going to download a font. Let's start with the border radius. Actually, border radius 20 pixels, and then need to round the corners, and then we go to Google Fonts, and then we're going to look for Poppins. There it is. I'm going to get the 500 one, and then I'll copy this link, and then I'll go to the public index, and then I'll just check it here, and then I'll go back to the global style, and then I'll copy the name of the font, and then I'm going to put it here. You can put it in the body also, but I'll put it there. Okay, so hopefully we should have a nice font. There it is. Poppins, one of my favorite fonts. Okay, so now I'll go to Figma and look at the design. So we don't need a label for that. So as I'm looking at the design, I just noticed we don't need a label. I'll remove this label. But we just need a placeholder. This one's task name. Okay, and then I'm going to give this a box shadow. So we want to have a nice box shadow. Okay, so I'm just going to copy the values from Figma rather than do 15 here, 15 pixels. Okay, so I'll copy the values from Figma, and then I'll do like this. These are the values that we're going to use. Okay, so now we have a nice backdrop, and then I am going to do margin. Top and bottom is going to be 2 rem, left and right 0. So there's a spacing. Actually 2 rem is too much. Maybe something like 0.5. Yeah, let's leave it 0.5 rem. Okay, and then I'm going to inspect this. Content container. Text editor. Form. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color. Okay, so background color, give this color here, and then we're also going to change the color to white. Okay, so the color should be white. I don't know why it's not white. Oh, it is white, but the placeholder, I think, how do I target the placeholder? I forgot how to target the placeholder. Let me double check. Oh, it's a pseudo. Yeah. So we do place holder, things like this, and placeholder. No. Let me double check. WebKit placeholder. Chrome Opera. Yeah, so copy like this. Copy this, and then you do a WebKit placeholder like this. Doesn't seem to be working as well. Oops. And no. I don't know why it's not working. Oh, maybe it works like this. Color white. Alright, seems like it's not working. Interesting. I'll take this out and then I'll go into the global. Let me try this in the body. Still is not working. Body. Yep, it's not working still. I don't know how to make this work. I've never done it before. Let me try this. Just to see if it's working or not. Nope. Type text. Okay, there it is. Now it's working. So yeah, so you just have to target the input, and then you put the type of the input, and then you do WebKit input placeholder. So I'll do the same for the text area. Text area. Seems to be not working for the text area. Let me double check. So I don't think we need this type. Okay, there it is, white. Okay, so for the placeholder task name, I'll do dot like so. Alright. So now let's render to-dos. Let's go to the to-do item. To-do item styled. Okay, let's do the same process for replacing these. All right. So in here I'm going to do background color, then I'm going to paste the background color. There it is. Then I'll do padding top and bottom. It's going to be 2 rem. Sorry for this, for that my phone is now silent. and then 0 left and right. Okay, actually I'll reduce the padding to 1 rem, and then margin 2 rem, left and right 0. Okay, so now everything is nicely spaced out. Actually, I think I'll just wrap everything in a padding of 1 rem around. Okay, width 100%. Okay, let me double check how big the container is. Oops, inspect. Container width. Oops, 90%. 90%. Okay, and then for the text editor, and then I'm going to reduce the width to 70%. Let's see what fits. Okay, so let me check the parent, which is content container. Inspect again. Okay, content container to do form. So this div here, so I'm going to style this const to do form styled. So it's going to be a div. Okay, and then this one width 80%. Okay, so now as our inputs are covering 100%, we want to reduce the text editor here. We can still do the text editor here too, and then width, this one is going to be 60%. Okay, like this, and then we're going to do display flex align items to center. Oops, flex direction column. Okay, there it is. So this one is got a margin top and bottom 2 rem. I'm going to reduce the margins. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to do a border radius of the, what is it, to do item border radius 30 pixels, and then a box shadow. I'm going to paste in the values here. Okay, for the box shadow, because I already did this design in Figma, so there it is. And then I'll reduce the margin top and bottom to 0.5 rem. Actually, I'll increase that to 8.8. Okay, there it is. Now let's do the button. So for the button, it's in the to-do form, and then form dot submit btn. So for the submit btn, it's going to have a padding. Actually, in the body, I need to do a font size here. Font size in the 1.1 rem by default, and then in here padding 0.5 rem, 1 rem left and right, and then outline none, cursor pointer, background color. I'm going to give it a green background color. Okay, so I'm going to select the color in Figma and then I'll paste it here. This is the color. Okay, outline none, border none, border radius 34 pixels, and color white. Okay, so hopefully it should resemble our button in the design. I'll increase this to 1.5 rem, and then I'm going to give it a shadow, a bit of a shadow. Okay, so I'll check the values of what values are used on the design. Okay, so in here I'll paste in the backdrop the values that we used. Okay, there it is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to space out between the items and the input. So I'll give the form padding bottom 5 rem. Okay, so I want to give it space between the input. Okay, and then in the app.js content container min height 80 vh, I'm going to do overflow y. Actually, I want to scroll. Okay, so when we have more content, we're going to be able to scroll down. Okay, inspect this. Okay, there it is. So now let's work on the text here. So when I go to the to-do item, I'm going to do display flex, justify content, space between, okay, like so. And then in here I'm going to cut this. And then first of all, I'm going to do document icon document, and then after that I'm going to do dot text container, and then I'll paste in the text. Okay, and then after that I'm going to do dot edit, and then we have delete. Okay, so I'm going to import the icons. Import document from .img So the one that we're targeting right now is document.svg. svg. Okay, so in the document icon, I'm going to do an img, and then I'm going to do document in the source. Okay, so document, and then we have edit, and then we have delete, what's going on here? I don't know what's going on here. Delete from. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to be delete. I don't know what the error is. Delete. Okay, I think I know what it is. Down here somewhere. Oops, nope. I can't pinpoint the error. Expected a semicolon. I don't get it. I'll just go here and then I'll do img src edit. Okay, I'll paste in the document. Delete. I don't get why I'm getting this error. It's so annoying. Oh, wait a second, maybe I need to change the name, because delete is a JavaScript keyword. Then I'm going to do img delete icon. Alright, so now we have a delete and edit. Alright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the icon document, edit and delete. And then I'm going to do background color to white. Okay, so we're going to have a nice background color. Then width, we're going to do 30 pixels. And height, I'm going to do 30 pixels as well. Okay, I'm going to increase that to 50 pixels. Yeah, something like that. And then I'm going to do border radius to 50%. So make sure the width and the height is equal if you want to make it rounded. Okay, and then I want to do display, flex, align items to center, justify content to center as well. Okay, there it is, it's nicely centered. Okay, so I'll look for a way to, I think we have a backdrop somewhere. I'll double check if I've added a backdrop to the icons. No, we leave it for now. Oh, I can copy the existing one. Like so. Now we have a nice shadow, box shadow. And on each individual icon, we can also try to put img. I think it's a backdrop, isn't it? Not the icon. I think it's a backdrop, but anyway, we'll do that later, because I'm not using the SVG code, I'm using an img, so it's going to put it around the image, not around the SVG icon. Okay, but it's okay for now. Let's work on the content here. I'm going to select the text con, and then I'm going to do flex. I think I'll do 5 or something like that. Oh, I'll do 3. Okay, so now it's occupying a lot of space. Okay, so I'm going to target edit. Oops, dot edit, and then I'm going to do padding right, 1 rem. Not padding, margin. Seems to not be working how I want it. Oops, like this, margin. But I want the margin right. Okay, so we have a nice margin, and then let's work on the text. Okay, so inside the text, I'm going to say dot left text, and then we have h3, and then I'm going to say task name, and then we have the task name, which is going to be actually a paragraph. The name is going to be a P, and then Control C, Control V, and then we have the right text, and then this one's going to be comment, and then to do dot comment. Okay, and then remove this. Okay, so what I'm going to target is the h3 down here. I can just do h3. I want to give this a color of a nice green color. Okay, like this, and then we should have a green color. Alright, so let's select the the text container, and then I'm going to do display, flex, and then they should be next to each other. Okay, and then I'm going to do justify content, space between. Actually, we want to space them evenly. space evenly, something like that. I think I'll do, I'm thinking of doing a grid. Display flex, just to center, maybe just for content center. Okay, and then the right text dot right text, then I'm going to do flex. I'm going to give a flex of 3. Okay, I don't know why it's not working. Right text, it's inside the text container. Right text, flex 2, maybe, I don't know why. I will inspect this. Oh, it is working as intended actually, but the text container, I'm going to give it a padding 1 rem, actually 0 left and right, no 0 top and bottom, and then 1 left and right. Okay, so right text, up the text container, we're going to do padding top and bottom 0, left and right, maybe 2 rem left and right. So we want to give a spacing between the icon and the text, and then I think I'll increase that to 3 rem. Okay, so now we have a padding, so we want to also do a padding left 4 rem, maybe. Padding left 4 rem. I do space evenly. Nope, not working. Find a space between. I don't know why it's not left, right. Okay, so the padding depends on the space between on how long the text is. So to fix this, I'm going to do a grid. Grid template columns. I'm going to do repeat to 1fr. Then I'll remove the padding. Okay, so now we have a grid. So what I'm going to do now, the right text, inspect this, so the left text actually, and then in the left text we should also have a padding. Text container, don't remove this padding actually, don't remove the padding. Alright, so now there it is. So we have a task name, comment, and then we're going to change the color to white. You know, it's time consuming styling this thing. Okay, so we have a nice okay, so now I'm going to, here icon document, we're going to do pointer events to none, and then cursor pointer. Alright, so now we should let's do the tag the img. We do cursor to pointer as well. Okay, seems to be not working. I don't know why. Cursor pointer. Okay, so now it is working. Let's go up here. The to-do form, we have the text editor. I want to do padding, padding top, 4M as well. Okay. Padding top, 4M, and then to-do item. To-do item, padding, 1rem. I'm going to do end. And last child. Okay, I want the last child to have a margin bottom, 4M. Okay, like so. So only the last child is going to have a margin bottom. So now our UI looks good. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video where we're going to be adding the items. But before we do that, I'm going to decrease the opacity of the placeholder. So go to the global style, placeholder, and then I'm going to opacity 2.7. Opacity 2.7, and then I'll do the same for the text area. Okay, so now we have lowered the opacity. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so now let's work on adding some data. I'm going to create another state here, const. So what do I want to store in this state value? I want to store the name of the to-do. So I'm going to do to-do name, and then I'm going to do set to-do name. So by default, I want it to be an empty string. So I'm going to do useState, and then here I'm going to set to an empty string to-do name, and then I'm going to do another state value. This one to be to-do comment, and then set to-do comment. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a function that allows us to add the to-dos. Okay, so it's going to be an asynchronous function. So down here I'm going to say async function, and then it's going to be add to-dos. Okay, so it's going to take an event. Okay, so because when we submit the data, I'm going to do e.prevent. We're going to prevent the default from happening, which is when I go default. When I go to the browser, right? When I click this submit button, it's refreshing the page by default. Okay, so we don't want that to happen when we click. So that's what this e.prevent default is doing. So in here I'm going to do const to do data. I'm going to set our data here. So to do data, we're going to create an object. So for the name, I want the name to be the to-do name from our state value. Okay, and then if there's nothing, we can if there's something in the name already, we can set to the name to-do name, or we're going to set the value to be undefined. Okay, if there is nothing, we're going to set it to undefined. so we won't be able to add anything if there's nothing, if it's undefined. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the comment as well. To do comment, and then to do comment. Okay, so this one is comment. Okay, so now we have this object with our data. Okay, so what do we want to do with this object? Okay, so in here we're going to set, when we submit, we're going to set the to do name when we submit the content to an empty string. So because if we enter something here and then when we submit, we want it to be empty. Okay, so we're going to set it to an empty string, and then in here we're going to set to do comment to an empty string as well. Okay, so now the to do data is there. Okay, so what do we want to do to add the data? We're going to do axios, actually we'll do await axios dot post, because we're posting the data in our server, so it's post. We use the post method. And then where do we want to post the data? We want to post the data in the link, which is this link here. So that's the endpoint, and then it takes an object, which is to do data. Okay, you can directly do the object in here, or you could add the object separately like this. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to save this, and then but before I do that, I need to do here on submit. So on submit, what do we want to do? That's when we want to call that function on submit, which is equals to add to dos. Okay, so when we submit the data, we want to call the to dos, but there's a catch. I'll refresh this. As you can see, it's not refreshing the page anymore because we're preventing the default from happening. Okay, but even though when I add the data, nothing is happening because we didn't set the value of the input. Okay, so when I go to the input for the name, I'm going to set the value. So what is going to be the value? The value is going to be our state value, which is goes to do name. I believe that's what I've named it. And then for the text area, it's the same thing, value it's goes to do comment. Okay, so this is for the comment. Okay, I don't know, we have an error. It says the input is uncontrolled, but don't worry, we're going to do on change. So I'm going to do this in a separate line, Okay, do this, and then we're going to do on change. So on change, we're going to run a callback function. Oops, it goes to on change. We're going to run a callback function. It's going to take an event as well, and then we're going to set the to do comment. So we're setting the target we're getting from the input, e.target.value. So whatever target we're getting from the input, we're setting that to the set to do comment. Okay, I'm going to copy this on change, and then we're going to do the same for the input as well. Okay, I'll do this. Oops. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing on change, set to do name, and then we're getting the target value, whatever input we're passing through. Okay, and then I'm going to do a required. We require this. We're not going to submit the form unless we put a name at least. Okay, you can leave the comment blank if you want to, but the name is required. Okay, so when I refresh this, the error is gone. So now let's add some data. Test data 1, and then this is just testing. Okay, when I add item, nothing happens. Oh, look, we have a bunch of items here because I kept clicking add item. Okay, I did that earlier, so that's why we have a bunch of items here that are empty. We're going to fix that. Okay, I'm going to refresh this. We should have test data. There it is at the bottom here. It says test data. This is just testing. Okay, so I kept clicking this add item, but now we cannot do that anymore unless we fill in some data. Okay, it doesn't work unless we put something in. I'm going to delete all these empty files from our database. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to delete this first, and then I'll come back to do the delete functionality. Okay, so now let's work on the delete functionality. So when I go to the app, when I refresh this, when I'm going to add like new data, lorem ipsum, for example, test data 22, and then I'm going to add an item, and then to see that item I'm going to have to refresh, and then that's when you see it. But we don't want to do that, so let's go back to the submit functionality. What do you want to happen when we submit? Okay, so when we submit, we want to call the what is it? The get. Okay, the get to do's function. This one. We want to call this function. Okay, and then when we add to do's here, so when we submit data, I want to call this function. It will fetch whatever we have in our server, in our database. So whatever it is, it will refetch that again. So when I say maybe test data 3, and then test data 44, or let's say actually I'll just say a random item or something, and then I'll do add item. Oh, seems like we have an issue. Cannot read properties of undefined reading, prevent default. Let's see what's going on. Prevent default, add to do's. Oh, I'm supposed to do get to do's, not add. So get to do's, that's the function I'm supposed to call. Get to do's. Okay, alright, so now let's do random item. This is a random item. Then I'm going to add item. As you can see, it's there. We don't need to refresh no more. Okay, so yeah, that's it for the adding functionality. Now let's work on the deletion functionality. We want to be able to delete when I click this. Okay, so inside the to do item, we're going to pass the delete functionality as a prop. Okay, because the button for the deletion is inside the to do item. Okay, so we want the to do item to be able to delete an item when clicked. So to do that, we're going to say create a new function for deletion. Okay, so I'm wondering where to create that function. We can actually do that in the to do item. To do item, yeah, there it is. In here we're going to do const delete to do. It's going to be an async. Okay, so in here we're going to do await axios dot delete. So here are the methods, the common methods we have: get, post, create, but I want the delete method to delete. Okay, but what are we going to delete? That's the question. Okay, so our API endpoint, if I go to do form, this is the endpoint. but we want a specific item that we want to delete. Okay, so I'm going to use a template literal here. So in here, after the CRUD, I'm going to do a slash because we want to get a specific ID of the item that we want to delete. So I'm going to say here I'm going to do to-do.id because we want to get a specific item, the ID of whatever item that we click. Okay, so to-do.id, so we're targeting that. And then we also want to see the deletion in real time. We also need to pass in the, actually we'll do that later, I'll show you what I mean by now, right now. So in here for the delete, I'm going to say, actually I'm not sure if I should target the div or the image. I'll target the div. On click, yeah, I'll just do on click. Okay, so what do we want to happen on click? In here I'm going to do a callback function. Okay, so this callback function, we're going to that's when we're going to delete. Okay, delete icon. Actually we don't need a callback, we can just do delete. We can just do delete to do. Okay, we can just run the function. Okay, now let's see. When I click this, let me refresh, click, nothing is happening. Let me see. Okay, I'll refresh this, and then when I click, nothing happens. I think the pointer events is still assigned to none. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check to check if the pointer events is still assigned to none. Pointer, no, it's not assigned to that. Okay, so pointer, so to do item, oops, seems like we don't have pointer events in here. So delete axios dot delete await, make sure we have await function const async. Okay, so seems like we're doing everything fine. The ID and the delete function. Let's see what's going on. Delete. Okay, the item is not found. Oh, the items are being deleted, but we need to refresh. So if I delete again, we just need to refresh the page, and then the items are being deleted. Okay, so let's fix this issue. We want to see the deletion in real time. So in here, in to do form, we're going to go to the to do item. Where are we returning the to do item? Inside render to do's. Here in the to do item, we're going to pass another prop. So this prop is going to be delete to do. Actually, no. Get to do's. And then in here, we're going to pass the get to do's function. Get to do's. So we're going to access this into to item. So inside here we're destructuring. So we have to do, and then we have get to do's. That's what I've named it, I believe. Okay. So down here we want to call the get to do's function again. Get to do's after deleting an item, so we don't have to refresh every time. Okay. So in here, hopefully, when I refresh this, when I delete, it's going in real time, and then when I delete, it's going in real time. Okay, I don't know what is this, what's this about, but don't worry about this one, it's not our fault. Okay, so now let's add new data. This is new data, and then I'll do add item. There it is, and then random item 2, this is new data 2, then add item, it's adding. Okay, but it's going at the bottom. Every time we add anything, it's going at the bottom. Okay, that is because we didn't set a date inside our model on our server. So we need to set the date, and then we filter the data according to the date. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so here in our server, in the models, I'm going to add a second argument after our schema. Okay, I'm going to add a second argument. It's going to be timestamps. Actually, I think I'll do it. It's an object. It should take timestamps, and then it goes to true. So what are timestamps? So the timestamps is like the date where something is created and when something is updated. Okay, so we're going to get the date of created it and updated it. Okay, and then I'm going to save, and then let's go back to our to-dos. So I want anything that is added to be on the top. Okay, if I add something, I want it to be on the top of the list. Okay, so in here I'm going to create a new variable, let sorted to-dos, which is equals to an array, and then I'm going to use a spread operator to copy our current to-do data. Whatever we have in our to-dos, I'm going to copy that, okay, in this new array, sorted array. And then in here we're going to say sorted to-dos is equals to sorted to-dos dot sort. We're going to sort. Okay, so it takes in 2 arguments. Actually, it takes in a callback function first, and then inside the callback function it takes in 2 arguments, so a and b. Okay, so it says function used to determine the order of the elements. It is expected to return a negative value if the first argument is less than the second. Okay, so in here we're going to do return new date. So instead of the new date, we're going to get the old date. So it's b, which is b dot created at. It's coming from our timestamps. Okay, and then we're going to subtract new date, and then a created it. Okay, so when I save this, actually we're going to use this new sorted to-dos. That's what we're going to display. We're going to display the sorted values, and then I'm going to refresh this, and then in here I'm going to say sorting test, then add, and then sorting test2, and then as you can see it's coming at the top. Okay, that's what we want. And then random item 3 blah blah, it's coming at the top. The more you add, the more it comes at the top. Okay, everything is coming at the top as we expect. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the container of these items. Okay, so I'm going to add a bunch of random items just to fix the container. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to look for the container which in the app.js we did a min height of 80 vh. I'm going to set that as an actual height. Okay, there it is. It's the actual height. And then we're going to do overflow x, actually overflow y, and then it's going to be scroll, because we want to scroll the items that we have. Okay, there it is. We're scrolling, and then we are going to, so the content container is a flex item, so we're going to say align self flex start, I believe, actually start not end, start, like so. Okay, so it's starting as flex start. Now it's working as expected. So now let's do the scroll bar. So we want to customize the scroll bar. Let me double check the design. Okay, yep, so the scroll bar, so we're going to the global style, and then in the global style we're going to do this, and then we're going to do WebKit scroll bar. Okay, I'm going to cancel this. WebKit scroll bar, I think it's supposed to be something like this. Okay, width 10 pixels, I believe. Actually 8 pixels. 8 pixels. Oh, it's not supposed to be in the body, it's the content container. That's where we want to customize the scroll bar. Okay, to do form, I believe it's actually to do item. Oh, it's in the app.js actually. In here, that's where we want to customize the scroll bar. It's not in the body. Okay, and then save this. Okay, let's do custom scroll bar. Custom scroll bar. Okay, here let's look at some custom scroll bars. WebKit scroll bar. I want to edit this. Okay, so it looks like this. Width 20%, 20 pixels. I'll copy this whole thing here, and then we're going to modify this. I'll paste it down here. Alright, so now we have a custom scroll bar, and then we're going to modify this. Okay, so I'll remove this here, remove this. Okay, and then I'm going to indent this like so. One more time. Alright, so now the width, I'm going to remove this box shadow. I'll leave the border radius as is, and then the border radius as is, and then the background color for the background is going to be a linear, so I'm going to go to Figma, and I'm going to look for that scroll bar that we did, background, and then I'll paste in the linear. Okay, there it is. And then, oh, seems like we have an issue. Let me see what I did. Still is an issue. Oh my days, there's so much noise downstairs. I'm going to stop the video now. Okay, let's finish our scroll bar. Okay, I'm going to indent this. Indent. Can't spell the word. I can't pronounce the word. Indent. Okay, and then I'm going to also indent this again. You know, I'm gonna avoid saying this word. Okay, now I'm going to reduce this to 8 pixels, and then I'll copy that linear gradient as the background. Okay, I'm also going to remove this shadow. We don't need it. I think I will leave it for now actually. Border radius, and then the background for the handle. Okay, and then on hover, I don't want to do anything on hover, so remove that, and then I'm going to save. Okay, so there is our scroll bar. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the border radius top right. Okay, so content, border radius top, actually it's left, border radius, top left radius 20 pixels, top, actually bottom left. Okay, so that's all I want. I only want it here and here, but here it should not be, there won't be a border radius. Okay, Alright, so now we have a nice scroll bar. Now we just need to work on the, let me try to add new content, add, okay, everything's working. So now we just need to work on the edit button, and then we're done. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so this is the final part of our video series. I'm going to be creating a function for editing. We want to click this blue button here, and then we want to edit some data. Okay, so after the get to do's, I'm going to say const. So this one is going to be edit to do's. Okay, so and then it's going to take a parameter. So I'm going to name it to do data, to do's data. Okay, so in here we're going to create a new state value, const. So what are we going to name this state value? So this one we're going to say edit to do data, and then set edit to do data, edit to do data, and then we're going to do use state, and then by default it's going to be empty, and then we're going to set it to now. Okay, so this edit to do data, we want to set that in here. So set edit to do data. Okay, and then we're going to put this to do data in here. To do's data, to do's data in this set edit to do data. Okay, so we want to edit. We want to have this function, access to this function inside the to do item. So let's go for the render. Is it? I think it's the render. Okay, I'm looking for where okay, somewhere here. So we want to pass that as a parameter, and then it's going to be edit to do's, and then edit to do's. I believe that's the name of the function. Yep, that's the name of the function. So what we want to do now is destructure that inside the to do item, get to do's. I believe that's the name. Actually, no, it's edit to do's, I believe. And then when I click the editor, I want to call that function. So when I do edit, I'm going to do on click. We're going to run a callback function, and then we're going to do edit to do's, and then remember it takes in an argument. So what are we going to pass in inside this function? We're going to pass in our to do data, which is to do, and then we're going to pass it inside to do. Okay, so now when I refresh this page, and then I'm going to inspect this, and then I'll go to oops, I don't have React tools open. React dev tools. Okay, so now we're going to add the dev tools to visualize. Oh, I think I need to refresh this. It's still not here. Okay, it's there, but it's not showing. Okay, refresh. I think I'm going to reopen this. Okay. Reopen. Hopefully it will load. Oh, it's not loading. I don't know why it's not loading the dev tools. Okay, I'll try my personal account. Okay, I'll try this and then Control V. I'll copy the localhost 3000. Okay, so I'll inspect this and then I'll go to the components, so to do item. Okay, so when the app is not responsive, as you can see. Okay, so when I click the edit, actually let me add more content. Add item, add item. So when I click this, the edit, it should to do form. As you can see, the state, it should update the state based on whatever ID we clicked on. So when I click this, it's going to update the state. It's going to update, okay, based, it's carrying the state, okay, because we're getting the data from the to-do here, okay, so it's updating the state based on whatever we click, whatever we click on. Okay, so now what's next? So in the to-do form, so we have the function edit to-dos. Okay, so we're going to run a use effect. Okay, so below this, we're going to run another use effect. Use effect, text in a callback function. Okay, so what do you want to happen in here? So we're going to say if edit to do data. Okay, so if edit to do data is true, we're going to set the to do type, to do name, actually the name, and then we're going to say edit to do data dot name, and then if it's true, we're going to set the name, and then if it's false, we're going to do an empty string, and then we need to do the same for the comment. Set to do comment. Okay, and then here the comment. Okay, so what do we want to rerun this when the set edit data is affected. Okay, so we're going to say, actually no, set, it's edit data. Yeah, in here edit data. We want to rerun this when the set edit data, this one, is affected. Okay, we want to rerun the use effect. Okay, so now when I save this, let's go and check this out. When I click edit, it's taking the current data and putting it inside the input. Okay, whatever data that we click on the ID is taking it and putting in the input. Okay, as you can see, it's putting in the input. But the thing is, when I take that data, when I say add item, it's like creating a new duplicate. It's not updating the existing data. So we want to run a patch method to update the existing data, not create like a clone of whatever element that you try to edit. Okay, so to do that, we have to go to the to-do item. Okay, actually we can still do here. So to do that, let's go to the add data, add to-dos in here. So we're adding the to-dos. Okay, so we only want to post the items only if the to-do data is not provided. So if not to-do edit, actually it's edit. So if the add to-do data is not provided, that's when we want to do the post method. Else we're going to do a patch. Okay, so we're only updating the data if we have the edit to do data. That's when we want to run the await, and then in here we're going to do Axios, and then dot patch. We're going to do a patch method. Okay, so here is our, we're going to do it literal, and then here's our endpoint, our main endpoint. So we need to pass in the ID of whatever item we're going to update. Okay, so the ID is going to be, remember we created a state, so the whatever data that, when we click here, the data that is put here, it's inside the edit to do data. So in here we're going to do edit to do data dot ID, so the ID from the edit to do data. And then if this is not true, we're going to do a post, else we're going to do a patch. Okay, I think I'll put a comment here. I'll say update the data if we do have the edit to do data. And then here we're going to say only post the data, only post if the edit to do data is not provided, something like that. Okay, so it's kind of, it takes a bit of time to get used to this. Okay, so now let's see if this is working. I'll refresh, and then I'm going to delete all of these. Okay, and then I'll edit this, McLean's universal channel, and then I'll save this. I'll say this is lorem text. Okay, and then I'll add item. Actually, it didn't update. Seems like we have an issue. Doesn't say we have an issue, but let's see what's going on. Edit, add item. Let's go to the network and see, refresh this. Okay, so now let's edit. This is a test, then add item. Oops. Okay, so the method, okay, let me double check if I'm missing something here. We're running a patch, edit to do data. Oh, we're missing something actually. I didn't notice that we need to put a comma as second argument, so it's going to be our to do data. Okay, so we need to have a name and a comment, so we have to do a comma after the literal string, and then we're going to do to do data. Okay, and then save. And then when I refresh this, when I update, and then I'll say McLean's universal channel, and then this is just a test. It should update the data. Okay, as you can see now, it's updating the data. And then we can re-update this to make sure it's a correct spelling. McLean's universal channel, lorem, if some text is cool, and then we can update the data. It's updating now, so, and then we can add more data. Actually, I'm running the update, so that's why it updated there. McLean's, add item. Oops. McLean's, add item. McLean's universal text data. Okay, now we can delete all these, and then we can add new data GI. Okay, we can update. Okay, we can delete. Okay, it's still saving the text. Okay, oh, actually we need a way to cancel this update, because right now I deleted the item that we are supposedly to update, but it's not there. So we need a way to cancel this update. Okay, I think I'll make a video for that separately. Yeah, I think that's it for this series. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so this is going to be a quick video just to address when you add some items. Test. When I add some items here, when I click edit, and then when I edit the item, when I say best whatever, I edit the item, and then I do add item. Okay, it's editing the data, and then when I want to add a new item, it's editing the existing item. Okay, so we want a way to clear this state here. Okay, so we want to clear this state so we don't keep editing the existing item, the one that we've clicked on. So to clear that, so remember the item that we're editing is stored in the edit to do data. So the set to do data, we're going to clear that, set to do edit to do data, and then we're putting into empty string. Okay, and then that will solve the issue. And then when I refresh this, when I edit, and then when I say Maclean's universal channel, and then when I say this is just a test, and then when I add the item, it's adding the item, but the state is cleared now, it's empty. So now I'm able to just add a new item again. Okay, so when I say Josh, and then this is Josh, and then I can add Josh. Okay, and then when I edit, and then it's still gonna edit Josh, but when I add another item, let's say like this, and then test whatever, and then when I add, it's not gonna edit the existing one. Okay, yeah, I think that's it for this video series. I'll see you on the next one.